各位线上的好朋友，大家好，我是江宁，欢迎收看国际人权两公约系列论坛。在光辉10月庆典的尾声，我们仍然期许国恩家庆的喜悦持续昌荣永续。人民与政府公权力是可被信任和保护，无奈仍有少数不良执法官员的违法办案，陷人民于无止境的精神迫害，如无法解脱的枷锁酷刑，至今仍未得到平反和正义清白。接下来是我亲身经历受迫害的动画短片故事，让我们一起来关注。天理不容。民国85年12月19日，侯宽仁检察官以宗教扫黑之名，带领大批警调人员荷枪实弹，并且违反侦查不公开，街头媒体违法搜索太极门。当天中视晚间新闻发布独家消息，播出检调大肆搜索的画面。隔天各大报纸以头条新闻刊载检察官放出的假消息，侯宽仁检察官更在媒体公开呼吁成立自救会，最后竟然以养小鬼起诉掌门人。那段期间，这一连串铺天盖地如同海啸般令人窒息的新闻不曾停止过，让太极门弟子一时之间饱受各方指责，数万名弟子和家属也都承受极大压力。记得在民国85年的冬天，有一天晚上，我一个人在台北街头等公车，竟莫名其妙地遭到路人壮汉的攻击。这个暴徒突然紧紧抓住我的领口，还怒骂我是害人精。暴徒竟然说，因为我身上背着印有太极门门徽的包包就是证据，而且说我包包内一定藏着害人的物品。于是在挣脱扭打中，对方以优势的高大体型和蛮力强收我包包内的物品。我曾一度喊救命啊救命啊，却没有半个路人愿意挺身相助，并且都纷纷的走避，连邻近的店家也视若无睹的拉下铁门，提早打烊。最后竟被壮汉暴徒搜出了一枚我私人的御史印章，并狰狞的邪笑着说，我终于找到了。说时慢，那时快，我的印件就被这个暴徒摔渣碎裂在红砖道上。这个恐怖的经历虽然已经经过了26年了，但在我内心深处埋下了抹不掉的阴影。想到当时的师父师母、师兄师姐无辜的被关受苦的日子，都会让我潸然泪下。回想当年因为同事的推荐，让我有机会遵循古礼，拜师入门，在师父的教导之下，透过练气养生，让我瘦弱的身体和过敏的体质得到很大的健康改善，更学会做人处事的道理，让我在工作上有更多的智慧化解危机。因为全家都在太极门练功，懂得如何与家人相处，让亲子关系更融洽幸福。这么好的气功武术修行门派，竟然会遭到侯宽仁检察官的违法办案与迫害。太极门1219案件的真相，至今还未获得真正的平反。甚至国内外学者专家都一致呼吁台湾当局，不要让人权迫害案件继续发生在 号称民主自由的台湾。如同刚刚影片中所描述，已经26年了，在街头受到暴力袭击的恐惧一直藏在我内心深处，未得平反。就如同今年于5月9日至5月13日召开的中华民国第3次国家报告国际审查会议中，我们可以从国际审查委员对酷刑的广义解释与台湾执行2公约成果看法，请看。
I have always asked how Taiwan thinks about what Taiwan thinks about the Universal Declaration on Human Rights in particular, and about human rights education in general. So mind you, this is now the 3rd time that I have been here. On the average, that's what? At least 10 years, right? From the first time that I came here. And up to now, I feel like a failure, and you know why? Nobody seems to be interested in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Without the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, there would be no International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, nor would there be a covenant on economic, social, and cultural rights, and all the others that followed after.
台湾号称以人权立国，也成立了人权委员会，但是2公约在台湾施行13年，却是徒具表象的空壳，人权观念并未落实于政府机关。历年国际审查委员所提出的结论性意见都未受到重视，2公约未给予宪法所保障的宗教信仰自由权利之有效救济、反酷刑等基本人权仍未落实。其中以专家学者所称的法税228的太极门案尤为迫害人权的指标性案件。接下来我们来听听国外学者专家是如何看待太极门案件。
Taiwan, a magnificent island, hailed by many as a beacon of democracy in a region plagued by non-democratic regimes. Visitors to Taiwan not only appreciate its natural beauties. They visit gardens, museums, and temples, and enjoy a millennia-old Chinese culture. The rich variety of religions present in Taiwan testifies religious liberty is affirmed and protected. Yet, on December 19, 2021, visitors to Taipei noticed thousands of people in the streets, protesting that for 25 years they had not been protected by democracy, and their right to religious liberty had been violated. In the last few years, scholars and human rights activists throughout the world have often heard the name of these protesters. Taiji Men is a menpai, similar to a school of Qigong, martial arts, and self-cultivation. Dr. Hong Taozu, the Grand Master, Zhang Menren, of Taiji Men, has inherited the wisdom of esoteric Taoism and studied Qigong, martial arts, medicine, yin-yang philosophy, life wisdom, and heart kung fu since a very young age. After martial law was lifted in Taiwan, he started to widely accept disciples, teaching them a path to good health and happiness. There are now 15 Taiji Men academies. Dr. Hong also promoted high-profile initiatives for world peace and brought traditional Taiji Men culture abroad through over 3,000 cultural events and martial arts performances. Dr. Hong has visited more than 100 countries and has become a familiar figure in international peace gatherings and initiatives held at the United Nations. In 2014, Taiji Men was part of a coalition that launched the movement of an era of conscience. The initiative was praised by offices of the United Nations and the heads of state of several countries, with the participation of people in 200 nations, and eventually led the UN to proclaim April 5 as the International Day of Conscience. The bell's sound has also a spiritual significance in many Eastern and Western religions. Dr. Hong designed and supervised the construction of the Bell of World Peace and Love, which was first rung in Singapore in the year 2000. Taiji Men invites world political, cultural, and religious leaders to ring them, making a wish for peace. Dr. Hong devotes a large part of his time to teach Dizzy, similar to disciples, and interview each of them before they are accepted as Dizzy. There is a traditional Taiji Men ceremony after the acceptance. Dizzy show their gratitude to Dr. Hong by giving gifts in the form of the so-called red envelopes to Shifu, Grand Master, as is traditional in Chinese Qigong Menpai. Everybody understands this is part of a personal relation Dizzy have with their Shifu. Several presidents and other high authorities in Taiwan have praised Taiji Men and Dr. Hong for their contribution to the public welfare of Taiwan and for being excellent ambassadors of Chinese culture throughout the world.
Under the Zhangmenren's leadership, Taiji Men has actively participated in international events, raised Taiwan's global visibility. In the future, I also hope that Taiji Men under Dr. Hong's leadership will continue to work with the government that will see Taiwan.
How is it possible that, at the same time, Taiji Men is praised and persecuted? When martial law ended in 1987, religious liberty was officially proclaimed. However, during a long post-authoritarian phase, the ruling party still expected religious organizations to actively support the government. Those who didn't were persecuted. The 1996 repression targeted some of the largest religious movements in Taiwan, including the Buddhist organization Fo Guangshan and Yi Guandao. Notwithstanding its caution in not taking political sides, Taiji Men was also involved in the crackdown, and Dr. Hong was detained together with his wife and two Dizzy. Dr. Hong was falsely and ridiculously accused by a prosecutor who violated the law and abused his authority of raising goblins, a practice totally foreign to Taiji Men. On July 13, 2007, the Criminal Division of the Supreme Court of Taiwan pronounced the final acquittal of Taiji Men defendants, declaring them innocent of all charges. The Supreme Court also declared there was no tax evasion. National compensation for the wrongful detention was given to Dr. Hong and his co-defendants who had been detained. This should have been the end of the Taiji Men case. However, they tried to maintain their tax bills for the years 1991 to 1996, claiming that the money Dr. Hong had received in these years in the red envelopes should not be considered as non-taxable gifts, but as tuition fees for a so-called cram school, a school where pupils receive crash courses, normally in preparation for exams. Different authorities intervened in the controversy, including the Ministry of Education, which has authority on cram schools, and courts of law. All declared that in the Taiji Men case there was no cram school and no tax evasion. For the second time, the Taiji Men case should have ended there, but this did not happen. In 2019, the NTB, in accordance with the ruling of the Supreme Administrative Court and the Taipei High Administrative Court, agreed that tax bills for the years 1991 and 1993 to 1996 should be corrected to zero, but maintained the tax bill for 1992, including penalties. Logically, this did not make sense, as the content of the red envelopes in 1992 was not different from the other years. In this case, the verdict of the criminal section of the Supreme Court of 2007 that found Dr. Hong and Taiji Men not guilty of tax evasion. Nonetheless, the NTB refused to cancel the tax bill for 1992. On May 5 and July 23, 2020, the Taipei High Administrative Court wrote twice to the NTB for the Central Area, asking them to treat 1992 as the other years were treated. This also was to no avail. In August 2020, land belonging to Dr. Hong that had been seized was auctioned by the National Enforcement Agency, then confiscated after 2 auctions were not successful. This property was important for Taiji Men, which planned to build a center for self-cultivation on what they consider a sacred land. Hence the protests, which also targeted what Taiji Men and others perceived as the unfairness of the Taiwanese tax system in general and the immoral system of bonuses. Why did the Taiji Men case last longer with respect to other groups that had been involved in the 1996 crackdown on spiritual movements, and in fact is still not solved after more than 25 years? One answer is that Taiji Men refused to compromise with the NTB. By settling, they would have admitted that they had been guilty of tax evasion, something that is both against their principles and factual truth, Ultimately, the Taiji men cases and protests are not about taxes or money. They are about freedom of religion or belief. Taiji men was not raided in 1996 and persecuted ever since, because the authorities really suspected it was guilty of tax evasion. In fact, in 2021, a sensational testimony emerged proving that those who started the Taiji men case knew that the accusation of tax evasion was fabricated. In a video, the late tax collector Shi Yusheng was heard confessing that prosecutor Ho Quan-jen, the main instigator of the persecution of Taiji men, told him to lie to fabricate a false tax case against Dr. Hong and the movement.
你是说他找你去只是做样子而已，就是你不管说什么，反正他写他的，是不是？他知道是。
Why was the lie fabricated? The root cause was the attempt to destroy a spiritual movement that taught its disciples to think with their own heads. Authoritarian bureaucrats and corrupt officials are always afraid of those who dare think independently and follow their own conscience. This is also why thousands in the world admire and respect Dr. Hong and Taiji men. This is why hundreds of scholars and human rights activists support the Taiji men cause. This is why the case of Taiji men was repeatedly denounced in international forums, including at the United Nations.
In June 2021, we brought to attention to the Human Rights Council the case of the Taiji men. We denounced how the tax weapon was used to arm Taiji men. In September, at the 88th Human Rights Council session, we renewed our appeal for Taiji men. This time, we highlighted the confiscation of this Taiji men place of worship by the Taiwanese government.
Those in Taiwan who believe this protest will simply go away with the passing of time are wrong. Protests have now lasted for more than 25 years. As the title of a book about the case suggests, the youth of more than one generation has been stolen, as they had to spend their best years asking time and again for a justice denied. But they did not give up. Generation after generation of Taiji men will continue to fight until the case is solved. More and more in the world will support them. In this sense, we are all Taiji men.
是的，太极门经历26年的冤错假案，还持续受到税务机关违法迫害，连国外学者专家都看不下去，都愿意以太极门人自诩，持续关注，直到案件得到真正的平反。在这里，我要呼吁我们的小英总统，严惩违法官员，早日平反太极门假案，让人民早日脱离精神迫害酷刑，如同您在国庆致辞的宣告，给世界一个更好的台湾。最后，以这首世界公民享人权歌曲，祈祝台湾国运昌荣，人民安乐富足。谢谢大家。